if you can tell by my voice, it is extremely hoarse. I lost my voice really early into the conference, but I wanted to make some videos. So the first thing is, I swear I made a video on this earlier, but I guess I didn't. I felt I had a Benchmade 42. I then traded it for a Goose. It was a Bushings modded Benchmade 42, and the Bushings modded was it still had tap and play, and I started to lose interest in it. But after I traded for it, I started to miss having it, and so I reacquired a Benchmade 42. I think I have no reason to believe it's not I'm pretty sure it's authentic, but I also have no idea. I know that this is probably the best way to tell. Oops, it's this handle. It's probably the best way to tell. But I don't know. And frankly, I don't really care. But the Benchmade 42 is a historic knife. It is the Balisong of of a previous era. For those of you who are maybe too young to remember, back in the 2000s, it was like the best Balisong for flipping. Uh, does that still maintain its status? Well, I'm going to be honest right now. No, it does not. But back in the day, it was like the quintessential knife. And if you recognize this design, this was cloned and so many cheap knockoffs were made. But yeah, I have a spring latch as well. I have not had it equipped, or before I did in my previous one, the Bushings Mono one. But here I have the spring latch in this bag. And I decided, well, let's see how this flips without it before I put it back on. Because the spring latch, as you can imagine, latches make flipping very imbalanced because you'll have one handle that has extra material and one handle that has recessed material. So it's already a little imbalanced. This one, it's not terribly so when you have no latch on, but with a latch on, it's definitely more so. They say that T latches, instead of the spring latches, T latches look like a T, where spring latches have like a round head. Oh, that's not sure. There we go, a round head. Um, and the spring latch, you just squeeze and it will come undone. It's really satisfying, but I think the T latch has less material removed, and so without the T latch equipped, it's a better balance. That said, how is the balance? Handle biased. It's handle biased. It's very handle biased. If you see my fans, I don't know if it's as obvious to see. The fans are. It's not very obvious, but they're very wobbly and they're very uneven. I don't really know how popular fans were back in the day. This was the Balisong, and for the most part, I'm definitely gonna keep this one after getting rid of the first one. And it was bushings modded, so it was like I kind of got a good deal out of like trading it. And yeah, the goose doesn't really maintain value. It's really hard to move a goose, but my goose is really nice. It has really good tolerances. But the Benchmade 42 is more of a collector's item than a flipper. It's just bit dated. Uh, in fact, here's a couple of things. As you can see, you have a single pin on the tang. Or I guess on the is this the tang still? Now, instead of tang pins, normally you'd have a second pin up here, but that's not the case. The single pin is called a kicker pin, and they didn't have pins to prevent this closing, partially because it was designed to have a spring latch. Tang pins are kind of nice in that you can like give them a little squeeze and it doesn't like damage it. You can give a little push, which is good for latches. Uh, but that's the case. It's got this. I don't know if this is a Weehawk design, but the 42 has this maybe a Weehawk design. And since this is old and not in the best condition ever, this is like definitely some. There's a straight up there's a chip on the blade, and that's fine. I don't care. This is again more of a collector's item, and I don't need it to be in perfect condition. It's just a vintage knife. Now, also, if you can tell, knives of this era tap like hell. They tap, and they have a lot of play. That's just the case. They're washers only, And I actually haven't even tried tightening this. It's interesting because there are T8 screws, but you can't really tighten them. If you do tighten them, you get really bad binding. So I'm gonna untighten this a little bit. There we go, free handle swing. So yeah, this was an era where bushings were not in Balisong. I actually don't know when bushings started to be a thing. It might have been the replicant, which has its own fair share of issues, but the Benchmade 42, it's a really cool knife, and I'm really glad to have one again. Mostly just for the sake of like collectors. And while I did get rid of it once, I do actually plan on keeping this one for good now. So I guess thanks for examining the 42 with me. I don't have much to say. I already unboxed this, and actually, what's interesting is that there. Oh no, that's for the spring latch. I was like, what's this other hardware for? It's for the spring latch. If this is a clone, don't tell me, because I don't want to know. But essentially, I'm happy to have one again, and yeah. Oh, also, it's 440C, and that's the blade steel. But the fun fact is, part of why people call these butterfly knives is because the Benchmade logo is a butterfly, and so it's probably not showing very well. But yeah, thanks for tuning in for a quick view of the Benchmade 42. It is by no means a good modern day flipper, but there's a lot of history with this knife, and without the Benchmade 42, we wouldn't have Balisong flipping as we know it today. So, yeah, Benchmade. Honestly, if Benchmade made a bushings version of this and they brought it back, that would be really cool. But honestly, I think even by modern day standards, it's just maybe not even is worth it. But yeah, happy flipping. Subscribe, like the video, I guess, and check out the coffee and donate some bucks. Help me get some lozenges. It doesn't hurt. I just don't have any voice.